Hey everyone, it's Obs with I Guess I Make Things, and welcome to my tutorial on how to make bowl cozies or an ice cream pint cozy using basically the same pattern with just one minor alteration. These are double-sided. You don't have to do double-sided, but they are fully reversible. So today we're gonna be going over the pattern. It's not really a pattern, but we're gonna go over how you can make these. And I'm also gonna go over the fabric and the thread choices and the batting choices that you need to make if you're wanting to use these in the microwave. So all of that and more is gonna be covered, but we're gonna first start with what the fabric is and what the insides need to be. So the first thing that I wanna go over is the microwave disclaimer. And the microwave disclaimer is that if you want to use these, maybe not this, don't put your pints of ice cream in the microwave, but if you want to use a bowl cozy and you intend to be able to use it in the microwave, so whether you're heating up soup, whatever reason you're putting it in there, make sure that the fabric, the thread, and the batting are all natural materials. No polyester thread, no polyester fabric, no batting that has a skim on it. It has to be 100% cotton. The other thing that you can do with your batting is you can use batting that's called Wrap and Zap that is microwave safe, but you need to make sure that your thread and the cotton that you are using are 100% cotton if you're gonna use it in the microwave. If you're like me and you would never put this in the microwave, I would still try to err on the side of caution and use the natural materials just to be safe. But I use mine mostly for ice cream, so I don't really care too much about the heat properties, but you might care. So just make sure that you're using the right fabric. All right, so to start off, we're just gonna talk about the size and what kind of fabrics you need. We talked about the type already, 100% cotton, Wrap and Zap. Don't stick anything else in the microwave. I have 2 cotton pieces. I want mine to be reversible, so I just have patterns that match each other. You can also do the same, totally whatever you want. And then I have 2 pieces of batting that are 100% cotton. And I trimmed these to be a 1/4 inch smaller than these larger squares. These larger squares are 10 inches by 10 inches. You can play around with the dimensions as you want. The 10 inches by 10 inches gave me this size of bowl cozy. I have a bowl in there, so you can kind of tell. And then this ice cream pint cozy is also from a 10 by 10 inch square. First thing I'm gonna do is grab each of my 10-inch cotton squares and get them lined up with the pieces of batting that I'm using. What we will do is sew each individual cotton piece to its own batting piece, and then we will get those all combined together to make the finished product. With both of our cotton pieces together, I'm going to grab my large ruler and my fabric pen, and we are going to make some marks that will help us to sew this effectively. So the first marks that I'm going to make are going to be in purple, and it is going to be just drawing an X diagonally through the batting piece. I'm going to do this to each piece, and this is just showing you where you need to sew the batting piece to the cotton piece so that they stay connected while you are making it. And then the second row of lines we're going to make in blue are what I'm going to call the fold lines, and we will use the fold lines to mark where we need to put our darts. That will help us get that bowl shape for the cozy. Now that we have our diagonal lines marked as well as our fold lines, we are going to start marking the darts, and they are based off of the fold lines. I'm going to show 2 different patterns. So the first one in blue is going to be the ice cream pint. You are going to go 2.5 inches from each side of the fold line and mark a dot, and then go 3 inches into the line and mark a dot and connect those with a triangle. So again, the triangle I'm making right now in blue is if you are trying to make an ice cream pint cozy. I will do another step here to show you what to do if you are trying to make a bowl cozy. So again, this blue triangle is for the ice cream pints. It's 2.5 inches from either side of your fold line and 3 inches in. I zoomed in a little bit better because there's a lot of lines and it could get a little chaotic. If you want to make a bowl cozy, we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be 1 inch from either side of that fold line and then 2 inches in. So the purple triangle I'm making is if you want to follow the bowl cozy tutorial. I personally in this video am making an ice cream cozy. This is the only part of it that is different, is the size of the darts that you're making. Every other part of the pattern is identical. With those darts marked, I'm now going to show you where that is going to actually appear on the pattern. So this is where the dart is for the bowl cozy. So that's the purple triangle size. And this is if you're doing the ice cream pint size. And you're just going to go and mark that on all sides. I personally have only ever done this with a marker. I'm sure there's a million other ways that you could mark fabric, but you're going to do that to each of your pieces. And now we're going to go sew the purple diagonals to connect our cotton together. This is what that looks like. And if you want to do it quilted, you can. That's the step that you would do this in, but it's not necessary. It just looks cute. Now I'm going to head over to my sewing machine, and again, we're only sewing on the original diagonal purple lines. And this is again the step where you would be quilting if you wanted to, and you're going to do this to both sides of your cotton. And once this is done, we are going to be moving over to the part where we're actually going to start shaping the bowl cozy on each side. So you're going to fold it in half on those fold lines and clip it into place. Again, this is an ice cream pint cozy, so you can see I have my blue triangles, but in a clip or so you should see where the purple triangles would be in a similar spot. And I like just to clip on the fold so I can keep those triangles in place so nothing is shifting while I sew. So this is what it looks like right now before I go to sew. So if I was sewing an ice cream cozy, it's the blue line. If you do the cozy for the bowl, it's going to be smaller. And once those are sewn together, I'm going to trim them at a 1/2 inch off of where that cut was on each side. So everything's just duplicated for the front piece and the back piece, for lack of better terms. And once we have those trimmed, we're going to open the cozy up and we're going to fold it back the other way, making sure to line up the seams from what we just sewed, as well as lining up the peaks that you can see on either side, so that we can do the exact same step on the other corners. So I do like to go pin where the line is, and then I also like to pin my seam from the last step together, just because I feel like it makes things a little easier. All right, with that clipped, we're just going to go do each of these triangles on both our front and our back. And once those are sewn, which these are, we're going to trim these as well at that 1/2 inch, just to make sure that everything doesn't have as much bulk, because we are working with a lot of layers. As much as I can debulk, that is what I'm going to do because it's easier on my sewing machine. And once all of those seams are debulked, we are going to double check that there's no fabric showing, and these both look fantastic. And you're just going to pick one of them, it doesn't matter which, and turn it right sides out. And then we are going to nest one of the cozies into the other one, right sides together. And you're going to see that here in a moment. I was just making sure to poke out all the corners, which you should do. You can do it a little bit later, but I like to do it here as well. And then I just stick the right side cozy into the other cozy that's inside out, and then make sure to line up all of your seams and all of your peaks just to make sure that it has good alignment before you start to sew. This is a good spot to put clips or pins or whatever is going to help you to keep alignment with everything. And our next step is going to be sewing through all of these layers at the top, making sure that we leave at least a 2-inch gap. I usually leave like one whole diagonal to a seam untouched, so that we're able to turn it right side out. So I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine. I sew these typically at like 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch. It doesn't really matter. The biggest thing is that we want both sides connected, and we don't want any batting to be peeking out at the end of this step. And then through our gap, we are going to be pulling it right side out. You do want to be pretty tender because that seam with all the layers can sometimes be a little fragile. So I'm going to pull everything right sides out. And this is where it is very important to poke out all your corners. So just keep in mind you have the corners for the lower part of the bowl. This is especially prominent in the pint cozy. It's not as bad with the bowl cozy. And then you also have all of those peaks if you choose to keep them in for this pattern. And then I just put it where it needs to be, and then we need to address the gap that we left open to turn it right side out. So going to the gap where everything is a little bit loose, I just go and tuck those raw edges of the fabric in, and I grab my fabric clips once I'm able to get all the raw edges inside, and I just clip it in place so that it doesn't shift while I'm getting it ready to go and sew. This does take quite a bit of effort, but I usually eyeball pushing it in about 3/8 inch so that when I'm sewing my finishing seam, it's making sure to catch all the raw edges of the fabric so that they don't pop back out while I'm using the cozy. Here is a finished ice cream cozy, and you can see this is the stitch that we're about to do on this one. It helps to give it a nice finished look. So I'm going to head over to my sewing machine. It's very thick, so I do use my jig to keep my presser foot even as I'm starting to sew. And this is real speed, how fast I sew these. I want to make sure I'm not putting too much stress on my machine and letting the machine move the fabric. It also helps prevent breaking needles. With all that edge stitching done, that's all you have is the finished ice cream cozy. And then you also could have gotten a bowl cozy, just depends on which pattern you followed. So I use mine Soup's ice cream, but my husband got me a special treat. Fits like a glove. You also, if you wanted to, you can trim these corners off. I like them, I think they're cute. You can just kind of fold them down, gives you something to grip. That is it for today's tutorial. Next week, we will not have a so long video, but I will be making a video walking through how I made this beautiful banner that's sitting behind me on the wall. We'll be watching clips from when I was making it, which was more of a TikTok series that I had, but I'll just explain the pattern and how I kind of built this pattern for myself. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go enjoy a nice little treat. But thank you guys so much for joining along. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will have my link tree down in my bio where you can find me on TikTok, Instagram. We have a Discord community where you can chat with other makers and get to know other people and share your projects. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, guys.